Hello, love. I'm Jeannie Street, and welcome to the Unconditionally Loved podcast. You've come here to fill up with the heavenly messages, divine guidance, and inspirational conversations. Trust that you've been guided here for a reason, to go beyond the physical world, to align in a remembrance of your soul's calling, and to remember that you are unconditionally loved. Can you tell me a little bit about your background of being a medium? Like, how did that come for you? If you could just share that with me.
Well, I would say it kind of came, it didn't come like all at once.
Okay.
I didn't grow up like knowing that I could communicate with people on the other side. I always felt like a connection to what I call God. As a child, I felt that connection, but didn't belong to a particular religion growing up. And then I somehow, without a college degree, ended up becoming Inc. 500 award-winning business leader by the age of 25. So I really got embedded in the corporate world and had a really successful and demanding corporate career. But through my childhood trauma and becoming a young mother, I wanted to heal some of that trauma. So I started taking spiritual healing classes and seeing spiritual healers. And I would say my awakening came during a massage I was getting one time as a burnt out corporate executive. And I had my first visit from spirit in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say I've communicated with angels and spirit guides for a long, long time. But as far as communicating with loved ones on the other side, I was actually pretty skeptical about that and felt uncomfortable about that. So I stayed away from it. And then I had a personal tragedy that changed my life when my only child died unexpectedly.
Oh, I do remember your story now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, my heart aches for you. And
Thank you.
I think God uses us in ways that are very unexpected,
Yes.
So you became a mom at a young age, and, you had to,
18.
that's young, and then having to go through figuring that out and like what life looks like and raising her and then losing her, having her cross over. Do you want to share a little bit about your experience of how her leaving just awakened you even more?
Yes, I would, because I think it's something that her and I are working together even to this day on helping other people. But she's my soulmate, and I love her more than anything. And she died from a drug overdose with a drug laced with fentanyl, and she didn't know it was fentanyl. And I mentioned my skepticism around mediumship and being uncomfortable about that piece of it. I don't know why. I think it was probably just from Hollywood movies and the media. And that was my really only perception of communicating with people on the other side. But I started receiving signs from her right away, like undeniable signs I knew in my heart were from her. But my mind was skeptical and I wanted proof. I wanted to know that I wasn't just desperate and making it up. And I wanted more than anything to have a connection with her. So despite my skepticism, I started exploring everything I could about after-death communication, the afterlife. And I started taking evidential mediumship. I didn't even know what an evidential medium was, but I discovered it. I'm like, that sounds exactly like what I'm looking for. So I started taking classes and training, saying the whole time, I'm not going to do readings for people. I'm doing this to have a connection with my daughter. And several years into it, and seeing the healing power of it and just how amazing that love between worlds is, I felt called to step into it professionally.
I feel like so wild how your daughter came in as a force and she's still a force and almost pushing you. I want to say go, this jolt that I get around, how she shows up with you. And literally the awakening to what God was calling you to do. And I love that you kind of said, like, I'm not going to do readings, because I remember that with myself too, like just feeling like, I mean, I came into this life with the gift of, of seeing dead people, of seeing angels, of seeing, and it scared the crap out of me. Like, I just didn't know what to do with all of it or how to communicate it. So I learned to like kind of quiet it and shut it down. And then, it started awakening, and I was like, well, no, this is for other people. Other people do this. And it's funny when you are really meant to do it, how you deny it and you don't want it.
Yeah.
And that just shows me, like, when someone comes to me with a gift, and they don't want to use it, it's like, I can see how God really wants to use them. Like, it's because they downplay it or poo-poo it. And I love that you are evidential medium, because that tells me like your story too, like of your corporate work, of like even like wanting proof that it is, and that's what you specialize in giving that proof.
Yes. Yeah, that was a really important element for me,
Yeah.
because as much as I wanted that connection with my daughter, I wanted it to be real. I didn't want to be deceiving myself, or, it was important that it was real to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the case for everyone who's looking for that connection, is they want to know it's real.
Yes. So tell me about your work. Like, what is your favorite thing? What lights you up, and how you serve your people?
Well, there's a few things that I've gotten into. I've been, a spiritual healer for over 20 years as a Reiki master, a shamanic healing practitioner. And in 2017, out of the blue, I just quit my corporate job and
Mm,
had no backup plan, but I just knew I just couldn't do it anymore. And I signed up to study to become a certified grief coach. I have no idea why, but I did. I completed that course. At the end of it, I'm like, I cannot put myself in their shoes. I haven't had a loss that I can,
mm.
feel like I can be walking in their shoes. So I just kind of said that was interesting. I did that and went and got another corporate job and went back to my normal corporate career, doing spiritual work on the side, but keeping it really low key in the closet so that my business
Right.
clients wouldn't know.
Right.
And then all of these things happened in my life that led me to where I am today. So I've taken all of the 20 plus years of spiritual healing and connecting with spirit, and I offer evidential mediumship as well as grief coaching from a spiritual
Mm,
perspective and spiritual healing.
wow. So needed on so many levels. I have like the chills all over. And this is another way God guides us, and we're not always aware how those things will layer in to the work that we're going to be doing. And you couldn't have known that you were going to use that grief counseling for yourself, because we go first, right? We go first. And then it's just like the more. They show me like all these doors opening for you, of like people finding you and coming, and there's just all these beautiful white doors, and they're just coming in because you've made the agreement. They like, you signed the contract and you're here. And that's like all the angels are like applauding you. I love that.
Uh,
Yeah.
I've been a tough cookie, so I appreciate their patience.
Yeah. Hey, I always say I need a little more confirmation. In the beginning, I was like, please keep coming. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah. So your favorite work right now is the evidential mediumship or the healing, or both?
I really call it a combination, because what I found on my own personal journey is having readings, receiving readings from mediums has been so healing for me. And
Mhm.
like that is like the doorway, I think, to what's possible. And you know, I recall when my daughter transitioned, I said, if I can just have a connection with her, I can survive this.
Mhm.
And then I did have the connection with her, but I still really struggled with the darkness of grief. It was a really rough journey for me. And that brought to my awareness um, that there's a lot more to it than just having a connection. Like, I'm so grateful for that connection, but there was still a lot of work and self discovery that I had to go through.
Right.
And I found that the traditional grief support out there, like medications and grief groups and counselors, really did little to help me, or in some of them even made me feel worse. So I knew I was at a downward spiral on this journey with grief. So I turned to the spiritual healing practices that I had used for my corporate burnout and childhood trauma. And that really helped me over time go from feeling like I was descending into this darkness of grief to seeing it as a spiritual awakening. And so I also love working with people who are grieving to help them transform the nature of their grief. So
Yes.
so there, it's not that grieving ever goes away, especially for a significant loved one that's transitioned, but the nature of the grief changes. And there's so much to discover about spirit, about yourself, about your loved one. So I really would sum it up to my favorite thing is all of that, like holding someone's hand and helping them see the beautiful love between worlds with their loved one on the other side, and the love of spirit to help them through and walking that journey with grief, because it feels very lonely at times.
So lonely. I just did a pop-up for my angel community, and we talked about the different levels of grief and how we can go from the type of grief which is I am grief, and which is painful and hard, to move to I have grief. And grief is the experience, it doesn't become you. And so just that ebb and flow of when we remember we're not physical, but we're really attached to the physical. And when we start to notice the nuances of love and how our loved ones show up in other people, like I'm sure you've read people that remind you of your daughter, and then you have a new physical experience knowing she's with you in another way, and there is no separation. But again, it's hard to put it into words unless you've experienced it. And that's why God is using you to help people, because you have experienced it, and he'll use all that goodness to help the miracles flow.
Yeah, and I remember before my daughter transitioned, and my mom transitioned 3 weeks after her unexpectedly. So I had two
Oh my
significant
goodness.
losses back to back. But
Yes.
I remember prior to that thinking of grief as an emotion, like it's one of the emotions on the list of emotions. And it's really a ball of emotions. It's all, and everything feels tangled up in there. There's anger, blame, shame, love, courage, like there's so much in there. And as we are untangling all of that and experiencing it, and it pops up at times you don't expect, and you don't know what's coming through. So learning how to be with it and express it, because for me, I held a lot of it in because it didn't feel acceptable to express it, and that builds inside of you. So I think also helping people learn how to express it in healthy ways and be held by spirit in that.
So what would
was
be
really helpful for me.
one of your ways, one of your tips for expressing the grief?
What was really helpful for me, and what I'm actually writing a book about now, is shamanic journeying. So it's the practice of journeying with spirit and working with spirit guides and teachers, angels, to give you guidance. And these are guided journeys, so I give them prompts on the journeys that they're taking. But it's in a way, it's almost like a guided meditation that invites them to express the grief in a healthy way, process it in a healthy way, but also have spirit there with them through it.
So funny, because I was seeing the book when we first got on, and I was like, yes, we'll talk about the book. And then I was I see a retreat. Your daughter's like, oh, and don't forget, my mom's going to do a retreat. And I'm like, okay, I feel like that's what we're going to talk about. So she's totally guiding this interview. Yeah.
Yes, retreats are definitely in there too. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, she is so excited about being part of that healing journey for people, to have them actually have a physical experience. Yeah. Because you're multi-dimensional, and she's, you'll have the book, but you'll have the experience. And she's a lot of fun, your daughter. She's got a lot of fun energy. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
does for sure.
Your mom like stands to the side a little bit. I don't think she got you. I don't know if that feels about right, but she's like
Yeah.
just showing me in her energy, like she didn't really get you as a soul. And she does now. And your daughter has really taught her. And all her anger has been healed. I'm
Good.
sure you know that, but she's like, she's declaring it. So
Good. Yeah, I had a challenging relationship with my mom, so that was a
yeah,
different level of healing to do when I didn't have that closure before she transitioned.
yeah. She's just, kind of showing that. And I feel like a support that is maybe a little weird. Maybe it's a little weird to have your mom support you because of the sticky relationship. But I love that she's being steadfast and true for you, like here in your physical, like you deserve that. You deserve so much
Oh,
love. And I love that they're bringing you forward, like just like showcasing you and putting you on, say, like a pedestal, like because your work is so of value and you really check yourself, you really stay in alignment. So I think that's one of the most important things we can do is as healers is, find our way back to our own healing and continue to show up and do the work behind the scenes to increase our own frequency and our own level of connection.
yeah, it brought up a memory that I'd love to share because it might be helpful for
Mm,
someone listening.
mm,
There was a period years ago when I completely stopped all of my spiritual healing practices and just focused on my career. And
mm,
I remember my mom saying to me, "You seemed," I was asking her some questions about something, and she said, "You seemed happier when you were doing your spiritual work."
mm.
And as I got back into, ended up getting really sick, and I think that was from me not honoring my, agreement to do what I'm here to do. But that just popped up when you shared that message from my mom,
Mhm.
and that she could recognize that in me, and really coming back into, like, even though I left this work for a brief period and came back to it, how spirit used that for me to be where I am today. And just
Mhm.
I felt like I needed to share that in case it was helpful for someone to hear.
Isn't it funny too, like how sometimes we will not hear that one beautiful thing that they offer because there's trauma that's in front and the trauma wants to be validated and heard and, you know, righted. And when there is a hard relationship and that person comes forward from the other side, I've seen this with my clients, I'm sure you have too, which is, yeah, they're kind of standoffish. They're like, I don't really care if I hear from them, because there's all this unhealed stuff. And then they receive it and it's a miracle. They walk away with it and they replay it, they tell a friend, and then all of a sudden they open up and they're like, oh, here's a good memory, or they start to have
Yeah.
a new experience. And death has a funny way of doing that, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think it ties back into that sense of closure that
Mm,
many of us don't have when a loved one transitions, when we either didn't get to discuss things or
right.
resolve things, or things were left unsaid, or it was a unexpected transit, whatever the case, that lack of closure can sit with you and affect your life. So I think that is another beautiful
Mm.
healing
I
tool
feel like,
of mediumship, is bringing that closure, making that closure possible.
yeah, I agree with you. Like the closure, it doesn't always come when they leave. It sometimes
Yeah.
takes a little time. We might think, oh, I need closure. Like, and so we go and we're with the person, but we still don't get it when they cross over. We're longing, we're missing something. And that could be that word or that feeling, that warmth that you didn't get. So maybe you spoke your mind, but maybe your heart is still hardened and there's not a softness yet. So you can get to the place of release, which is through forgiveness and through surrender and through journeying to the new places of, oh, wow, look at that memory. I forgot about that. Or, yeah. Mm. Wow, that's so brilliant, so bright. Your mom and your daughter kind of I feel like they also showing me like some sort of duality in how they left, some sort of similar patterning.
Yes, the challenge with my mom was growing up. She had friends and boyfriends that were drug addicts and drug dealers. So I
Wow.
grew up around addiction, and
Okay.
it severely injured our relationship and actually severed it for quite a while.
Mm,
So dealing with the addiction, and it happened to be heroin with her boyfriend. It just created really, really unhealthy and difficult circumstances as a kid for me. And then on the flip side, my daughter struggled with that addiction. And I wasn't, I mean, in my heart, I knew, and intuitively I knew, but I believed her when she said she didn't have it. And she was in recovery secretly on her own. My daughter's very good at convincing me. And I know part of me
mhm.
wanted to believe that. But she lived with my mom, and her boyfriend lived with my mom as well. And he was a recovering addict. So all of the addiction and support went to him, and that's kind of what everything was about. But in the background, my daughter was also struggling with it too.
Right.
And um, so for me, the two women that I love the most in my life both had this significant experience with addiction, whether it was themselves or people in their
Mhm.
life. And it was a challenge for me on both sides.
And I'm sure it's still a challenge in ways since, almost like, I think a lot of times we feel like there's unfinished business, there's unfinishedness. Um, and I guess that's a hard thing to live with, like, well, what now? But I love that your relationship, your energy, your abilities have opened you up to have new communications and continue to express what's in your heart. And I think I tell my people all the time, I'm not sure if you do this too, but like in your journal, you can have conversations where they're speaking to you and you're speaking to your loved one, and you are open hearted. There's no walls, there's no defense anymore, because they won't show up with any anger, fear, or shaming. They'll only come through with love.
Mhm.
So the messages you need to hear are present.
Yes, they are. And, there's questions that I probably will never have answered from both of them that are still in my heart, but I've come to a level of acceptance
Mhm.
that I'm not going to get them in the way that my ego wants to have them, but it's accepting that this is their path and their journey,
Mhm.
and that we're connected, and there's learnings for me in this and for them in this, and we're all in this supporting each other and learning things, and still, no matter what unresolved questions there are,
Mhm.
love is greater than that.
I think you brought up a really big point too, which is because you have this gift. And I just did a podcast on this on my own grief, is we still grieve. Because I can still
Yes.
talk to dead people, I'm still gonna mourn when my aunt passed away. And like I still had a lot of the same unanswered questions. And yes, I can communicate with her. And yes, I saw that she was okay. And yes, but when it's our personal life, we're still affected, and we still long for, like, I love you said that, like the ego wants to have it come in a certain way. And as we peel back our own layers to not being grief, but rather ebbing and flowing with grief, like I have grief, those answers do come when we loosen up, I call that like the tight rope we hold, right? And when we start to open, we really do have those answers. It's just maybe it's not our time for it. Maybe there's a little bit more of, oh, let me see if I can soften more. Let me see if I can release more. And, you'll notice like I do, the people that come to us for readings also teach us, they inspire us, they spark open another level of who we really are as a soul.
Yeah, it's something that I really resonate with, is which kind of goes against society's general definition of grief, is grief isn't healed by time. it's shifted by your perspective. So it's no matter how much time goes by, you know, nothing will change with your grief unless your perspective of it and your relationship with it starts shifting. So that shift in perception about the grief and your relationship with it, to me, what I found with my clients and myself is really what helps to transform it, not or mend it. I wouldn't say heal it, because it's, to me, I'm never going to be whole in the way I was before my daughter died, but I'm mending that, and I'm learning through all of this pain that I've gone through. When I reflect back on what I have learned and what who I have become through it, that I probably wouldn't have become without it. I see grief as a teacher as well.
Yeah. I love the perspective of, instead of this is happening to me, I get to go through this. I get to experience how love can come in and fill the void, and not all at once, but it can flood through, and it can ease, and it can bring in a new direction, a new perspective, like you said. And I listened to this really great sermon one day, and the priest was talking about how life is a series of losses. So we come in and we start to lose. We lose friends, we lose family, we lose a game, we lose our muscle tone as women, we start losing our hair, and things change all the time. And we're under this false perspective that we need to stay the same. We have to keep our youth, and that there's something wrong with losing. But actually, it's through the loss that we gain more love, we gain new relationships, we gain our faith it grows, it ebbs, it starts to become the thing that we lean on instead of our own self. So I think that's a great kind of perspective when I feel like life is overwhelming and I'm like losing, right?
Yeah, I call it turning wounds into wisdom, because there's so much wisdom in there if you can have the courage to explore it. I think that's really part of it. Is the pain feels so great that we have a tendency to push it away or numb it out or keep busy not to feel it or push it down. But when we can, in a healthy, supported way, which to me, spirit is my greatest support, when I can sit with that pain and be open to learning from it, that's where the wisdom can come in. And just a quick example of that is, prior to me going through this experience, I was a very busy, burnt out corporate executive. And as I said, doing spiritual work on the side, but being very careful nobody found out about it, because I didn't want it to disrupt my sense of security and safety that I've built over here in this career. And even though I was successful, I wasn't fulfilled. On the other side of it, when my grief was so great that I just said, none of this matters. Like, why did all of this stuff matter? It really gave me a wake-up call to look at my life and look at who I was being and what I was creating in my life. And it took, like I said, I was a tough cookie. It took me a long time to shift that and see that differently. But through this exploration with spirit and looking at those things, and I went through some physical health issues as a result too. All of those things, when I reflect back on it, I'm like, wow, I'm such a different person than I was before this experience.
Well, I think that is the key right there. What you just said is like, it happens to our bodies. Like when we aren't in alignment and we're fighting who we really are, and we're fighting against spirit, we're out of alignment. And so what comes in, right? Ailments and illness, and our body is physical. So it's going to have those experiences on top of all the other life that's going to continue to happen around us.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. That's huge, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's very potent. Yes.
So what would be your advice for a mom that is going to have or has had the experience that you have of losing your daughter?
Well, first of all, I'd want to say my heart goes out to her because I know it's indescribable, and it's for me and probably for most moms that lose a child, it's the most painful experience you can ever imagine. So I
Mm,
just want to first of all acknowledge that, and to say if there's one thing I could share, it is that your loved one really is still with you, and you can have a connection with them on the other side. The love does exist between worlds, and I think we often will think that death is the barrier to that connection. To me, it's really the nature of our grief that's the barrier. So as much as you can to be gentle and compassionate with yourself. I know for me, I lived in the land of regrets for the longest time of if I would have done this or if I wouldn't have done that, and spiraling in that. To get support, it is so hard to go through it on your own, and it feels lonely. But get support that resonates with you, and just know that spirit is there supporting you, your loved
mm,
one, as well as angels, spirit guides. You're not alone, and this is in your life for a reason, even though you may not know why, and it may not feel fair, it may not feel good, but you can get through it, and you can still have a connection with your loved one.
yeah. And I think those are hard words to even say, I think at times, like that for me, like sometimes I feel like just sharing that, like, there is a purpose and we don't know the purpose. It's not a punishment. God is not punishing you. This isn't happening against you. And so there are ways we can start to shift our perception and just to heal that. Um, I want to say that loneliness for our loved ones and for God and for love to be present in our life. And as you open up, that love comes in, and no, it's not about a replacement. It's about filling you. And so that you can fulfill your soul's legacy, you can come and do the work that you're meant to do, to heal the lineage, to pay attention to the generational wounds and to evolve. Yeah.
And especially if, as a mother, like for me, my daughter was my greatest purpose in life. So
Mm,
mother was my my most beloved purpose in life, and feeling like I lost that sense of purpose was devastating. So I also want to share with any mothers out there that you do still have a purpose here,
mm.
and your soul has a purpose here, and not to feel like there's no sense of purpose, or if you do feel that way, not to make it wrong, because it's not wrong. It's
Mm.
an invitation into self-discovery.
I really appreciate you on so many levels for your honesty and your willingness to talk about your personal life and your journey. And your team in heaven is just like surrounding you with so much love and support. And I want to say you're brave, but I don't want it to sound the wrong way. But it takes a lot of energy to get to the space of being vulnerable and brave. And I want to just share that I acknowledge and see you for
Thank
stepping into
you.
that place. And yeah, it was really not easy, but really beautiful.
Thank you. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing in the world,
Oh,
and the light
thank you.
that you're shining in the world. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Hmm. You want to tell everybody how they can find you and yeah, all the good stuff.
Oh, they can find me on my website at kimcoots.com. That's KIMCOOTS.com. And my social media handles are Kim Coots Medium.
Nice. Beautiful. And we'll put everything in the show notes so everybody has all the information and they can come and find you. And I wish
Oh,
you luck
thank
with
you.
your book. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
And
Me too.
I'm literally more excited for, not that the book isn't great, but I'm really excited for the retreat because your daughter is just
Yes.
like, it's going to be phenomenal.
I feel it. I'm
Yeah.
so excited. Yes.
She's putting you next to, and this is really funny. She's kind of putting you, she's like, look, here's Teal Swan. Do you know who Teal Swan is?
I've heard of her.
Okay. But she's like, and then here's my mom. and she's like elevating you. And she's like, and here's my mom. And she's like, everybody needs to know
Oh,
that my mom is a beautiful healer. And yeah, so I don't know
thank
why
you.
that she's bringing that forward, but I love that she's just bringing you and elevating you to
Oh,
this holy space. And
thank you so much for sharing that. That means so much to me.
yeah, you and her, your work, you girls, you have a lot to do still.
Yes. And I want to
Well,
thank my daughter Kira for being here with us today too.
yeah, well, she like arranged all this, she's like all up in the business. Well, thank you so much for joining me here. I'm so excited for people to come and be in your energy.
Thank you so much for having me, and again for everything you do. It's my pleasure.
Unconditionally loved. Unconditionally loved.